good morning. Happy to be here, surrounded by so many friends and colleagues. And I'm going to introduce and moderate our next roundtable, which is about measuring the tourism sustainability. And as you see, we have a really great panel of relevant speakers who are leading with measuring sustainable tourism. And they're going to provide us meaningful insights about data and sustainability indicators for better managing and planning our destinations. But first of all, I would like to set briefly the scene. And I will ask you to a simple question. Why is measuring tourism sustainability so important? The answer could be quite easy. I mean, in our current world, we know that sustainability, social, cultural, economic, and environmental, has become a must. And a must especially because right now, after the deep impact of the COVID in our sector, we need a real recovery of our destinations, but we need a recovery of a better model, a more resilient model, and a more sustainable model. So that means that our DMOs, they need new terms of reference. We need new indicators, we need new data that go beyond the promotion of visitors and expenditure and turn into focus on planning and managing tourism in order to improve the quality of life of our residents, visitors, but also in general, the sustainability of our destinations. So that's why it's so important to have data about sustainability in tourism, because sustainability is providing a different frame, a new insights, new values, and new information for a new tourism policies that is needed right now. However, we have several studies and researches that pointed out that tourism sustainability data or sustainable tourism indicators has been really useful to raise awareness about sustainability issues, to gain consensus about impacts of tourism, but not to promote better governance or to introduce sustainability as a priority in our actual policies. So that means we have a lot of data, we have a lot of good indicators, but we have very little evidence about the use of this information to improve our policies. So why? We can argue different issues, but mainly the use of sustainable tourism indicators in decision-making is not straightforward. It's not a linear process. It's complex. It's complex because it is dependent on different interests, on different institutional frameworks, values, ideologies, even relationships between stakeholders. So that's what we are going also to discuss in this roundtable. We are going to listen the experience of our panelists about data collection, monitoring, information, and so on. But we are all going to also to discuss further about the use of this data, how we use those indicators to make better evidence-based decisions that improve sustainability management in our destinations. So to do so, we have a fantastic panel of 5 experts. We have 2 experts in person and 2 experts in virtual mode. So here in person, we have Giuliano Talone. He's Head of Studies, Innovation, and Statistics at Regional Tourism Agency in Lazio region. And he's also leading the BestMed InterregMed project. We have here also Alba La Justicia. She's a coordinator at the Barcelona Tourism Observatory. And then online mode, we have here Konstantina Sakopoulou. She is Deputy Head of Research, Studies and Documentation at the Ministry of Tourism of Greece. And we have also Dario Bertocci. He is an adjunct professor of e-tourism at the University Ca' Foscari in Venice. And also he's leading Shape Tourism InterregMed project. So we are going to start our roundtable, and my first question will be to ask the panelists for a short speak, 5-minute speak about how your project or work is contributing to measure tourism sustainability. So we are going to start for the main frame, how they are working with data, and then we will go further asking about implications for policies, and also, of course, we count the audience in. So if you want to contribute and ask any question that you may have, remember that you have the event app, and you can ask questions, and we will read them at the end of the speeches. So let's start. Maybe it will be easier to start with our virtual panelists. So yeah, if you want, Constantina, maybe you can go on the first one.
Yes,
Yeah, so you have the
you.
floor. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the invitation and many thanks, especially to you. I have been reading all your work throughout my PhD, and I couldn't imagine that one day I would have you, I would be in your panel and you would be the moderator. So thank you very much. I really like to say a few words to present our initiative here at the Ministry of Tourism of Greece. We're working in collaboration with the UNESCO to establish a research and monitoring center for coastal and maritime tourism in the Mediterranean.
So sorry, Constantina, we have some problems with your connection.
Can you hear me?
Mm. So yeah, so maybe we can, let's see if Dario have a better connection. Dario, you want to?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's
Do
see.
you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for the invitation. So sorry, really. COVID stopped me, even if we are in the last stage of pandemia. It stopped me for this conference, so I'm at my minutes. Um, what we created in Shape project was a first observatory, tourism observatories with a lot of data, with a lot of indicators for the entire Med area. But measuring tourism sustainability requires data, of course, but we have some difficulties to obtain, for example, dataset and updated dataset. We started a few years ago, and data was already old. So we struggle a little bit to find updated data, and also try to have some question related how we can calculate indicators, which kind of indicator we wanted to calculate to measuring tourism sustainability, and which method we decide to use it, because of course you know that there are a lot of indicator systems regarding tourism, regarding effectiveness, regarding sustainability, and of course there are some lack of data, and the big lacks of data are usually at municipality level. So if we want to monitor in sustainability at municipality level, sometimes we need to stop each other because we don't find good data. We ask to the municipalities to give us data that they don't even collect, even if those data and those data sets are listed as really important, for example, for ETIs calculation. And of course, because we wanted to create an observatory, we needed to have a comparability issue to comparable the different actions European Med area. So we have also some other problems regarding the questionnaires. For example, there are some that ask for also subjective data that sometimes answer in a way, for example, people in Italy in a way that is the other countries. So we face a little bit with these problems in general with the European projects. We had also in mind, okay, we are going to measuring the sustainability with this data, the updated data that we find, but then the observatory has an afterlife, or it stops because we will not be able to collect again outside the European project data and data sets, and of course to keep them updated. So what we decided to start as a common, using a common starting point. So not inventing new indicators, not using new indicators, but try to use it, the one that already are developing from the World Economic Forum for the nation, for all the nations in the world. So we started with the Travel and Tourism Competitiveness Index, that of course each 2 years is updated. So we have the version of 2015, 2017, and 2019, and few weeks late, like in 2-3 weeks ago, we had the new report that it's changed the name. Travel and tourism is not anymore the competitiveness index, but is development index, rebuilding for a sustainable, resilient future. So inside here, World Economic Forum wanted to also include sustainability, resilience, and also inclusivity to their main point to monitoring those aspects. What we did, we adapted a regional level, because we had the possibility to collect data at regional level, so NUTS2 level for the entire Europe, actually, thanks of the updated data sets of Eurostat. So we try to combine the pro and the contras, so the weaknesses and the strengths of analyzing sustainability at the national level. So, for example, the data availability and the indicators comparability, with the weaknesses of the local level, because sometimes we don't have data and there are some subjectivity in the collection and interpretation of this data. So we have much more insight and information to cover all the entire European regions at NUTS2 level. And something that was really important for us is also visualization of these indicators. So we created observatories for ship tourism projects 2-3 years ago, and now we're still updating it, and we created this for a new project that is called Smart Culture. It's an Horizon 2020 that take some indicators and the methodology of regionalization of this data and try to visualize in a different way. This is only a screenshot, but you can use this beta test link for this visualization, and you can compare all the and all regions of Europe in terms of competitiveness, in terms of tourist sustainability of their destination. So this is what we created just in 5 minutes of speech.
Thank you, Dario. So Alba, if you want to go on with your experience.
Sure. I will try to be fast and straight to the point. The idea is we are in an observatory which does not take just the data for the city, but also for the region. So the key point that he was mentioned is having data with several levels. So at the end, it's nothing new. What we try to create in the Observatory of Barcelona is reach out first all the data sets and all the previous experiences that even the city or the region have done already. Try to collect all the types of indicators that has been created, which was over 300, and to narrow them down to be able to those that are really able to be calculated, those that we will have data and we will be able to compare within ourselves. So with this main goal in mind, we set the challenge to narrow them. It's the idea of having the three, for sure, nexus of economic development, social and environment, but as well all the types and issues that are interesting for several regions. Within this, we have discussed it and tried to, the difficulty we faced it as well, that some data is not specifically for tourism maybe, but is more narrowed down to all the wide city, all the region. But I think what we were trying to develop is something that is able to be shared, that we will be able to compare between ourselves, the different types of levels of city, and try to not, for what we are, be punished in terms of sustainability. So after that, what we have right now, we can, whoever wants to read the methodology, you can share it, it's on our website. We are right now calculating those indicators that we have decided, which was are at the end 30 of them. And what we are trying to do is with those, transfer them to be able to the developers, and it's linked to the following question, to decision makers to be useful. So the previous thing, and which is interesting, is many things has been already calculated, but we're not labeled as sustainability as well. And some of them are never have been calculated, and you have to start from there. So with those two different perspectives, at the end, what you have is the challenge to try to explain when once you have the number, what to do with it. And this is our challenge right now. It's trying to how to transfer this information, or how this information should be used at daily basis, or to process making decision making. But I don't follow up, and due to so let's keep here, and we will keep going.
Thank you. So, Julian.
Yeah. I will speak a little bit about the experience we developed with the BestMed project, a strategic project of the Interreg program that is focused on governance. So I will speak mainly about, if I can also see my presentation, about how we are trying to develop a network that could share information and approaches to the use of data for tourism management. The lead partner of the project is El Legado Andalusi Foundation from Andalusia. Here we are also some friends from Region Andalusia, Paco Benitez, from Regione Calabria, other partners of our project, Nicola Meira. We are working all together to develop this approach. First element, complexity. Some previous speakers said there are a lot of approaches. This is the point. I don't go inside the list, just some example of different approaches to use of data for evaluating the sustainability of tourism. A nice statement I heard 2 days ago in the In-Circle project meeting. Data is a jungle. This is a good, I think, expression to understand how different are the approaches and how few coordinated they are. Another image. A bubbles tower, because the communication between stakeholders and producers and users of data are difficult. Each one adopts his own approach. So what we are trying with the project is to start to work a little bit more together. So what is the BestMed project approach? We started to analyze the past, so the experiences we had in tourism observatories around the Mediterranean. We also studied and made a map with the cast of Bologna of the existing observatories, a lot of. And we also studied the experiences in EU projects, especially Interreg projects. There are a lot working on data, Mitomed Plus, Herit Data, Destimed Plus, and so on. What are the points? There are many different approaches on data use, few coordination, and a lack of comparability between different destinations. So we need a better networking to share approaches, to define standards, to have a participatory process to develop altogether similar methods to analyze our destination and the sustainability especially. Inside the BestMed, we especially developed a platform with the reuse of the platform developed by Mitomed Plus project by Anna Munici that was spoke yesterday. And we especially worked on the governance, trying to develop this network of sustainable tourism observatories. So what is the concept? To bring together the main parties that can be involved in data management, observatory especially, so I invited you as well to participate. For what? To share ideas, techniques, tools, so to make together a process of developing bottom-up the different approaches, and also to try to influence the EU policies in defining standards, for example, Eurostat work and EU work and so on. The objectives are cooperating in sharing of data, sharing information on specific tools, develop joint projects that will be very important in the next phase after Best Med end. Dario spoke about the life of projects. This is a point. We developed an InfoHub, CRPM especially working on this, and this is a good point to having an information source for sharing methods especially and information. In the future, we would like to develop also the use of data, a common use of data, and contribute to the goals of WTO and INSTO that is working, and that is a reference at a worldwide level for observatories. Activities were a series of meetings. We have at the moment 20 different observatories around Mediterranean that are involved in the process. We developed the InfoHub and a series of meetings where we discussed about these questions. The next one, the last one, will be next 21 June in Rome, and there we will close the idea of the networking with defining an annex, a memorandum of understanding, that will be signed in Granada in September in the final event of Best Med as an annex of the Granada Charter that will be the policy document of the project. Inside this will be also a roadmap towards the next steps after the project ends. We would like to follow up the work of the network also after the end of the project, and especially developing new common projects. So we are still working on the new programming and also in the last call to try to give a future for this work of the network of sustainable tourism observatories.
Thank you, Giuliano. Let's see if we are more lucky now with Constantina. Let's see if we can connect with them.
Is it better now? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, fine. I would like to thank you first for the invitation. And I don't know if you heard me before. I would like very much to thank especially you, Ms. Torres, because I have been going through your work throughout my PhD, and I never dreamt that I would be in your panel here today to be able to discuss with you these issues. So I will briefly present our work here at the Ministry of Tourism. We are trying to establish, in cooperation with the UNWTO, a research and monitoring center for coastal and maritime tourism in the Mediterranean, which will be situated in Greece. We only started last year. We're working with very much enthusiasm on this project. Okay, so I can go on to the next slide. No. Could we? Okay, yeah. Thank you. Thank you. So what we acknowledge is the lack of reliable and comparable data at the coastal spatial scale and at travel to inform policy making, as well as a lack of coordination between different tools. So we have set to establish this research center with the goal to develop a coherent methodological framework for coastal. Starting by defining the coastal level, its a connection with the mainland, and the methodological framework will be fine-tuned with a series of pilot studies, which will be conducted in different types of med destination. We wish to support a holistic approach to tourism development to enhance evidence-based decision-making in the sector, and to contribute to the capacity building of human resources at the coastal and island destinations through targeted training activities. Next slide, if you please. No. Okay, thank you. What we have been up to so far. So we have signed a memorandum of understanding with the UNWTO on June 4th. 2021 in the event of the 66th meeting of the UNWTO Commission for Europe. We are holding ongoing discussions with other Med countries who might wish to join us in this project. And up to now, we have positive replies from 10 countries: Algeria, Croatia, Cyprus, Egypt, France, Israel, Malta, Montenegro, Morocco, and Spain. And we feel that the center could really become a hub of cooperation for countries in both sides of the Mediterranean, northern and southern, because after all, it is our common sea, our common home. We are currently working on policy because we believe that changes towards sustainability mostly induce an institutional change. That is the need to plan ahead and to cooperate with the industry, to cooperate at different governance levels, and to remain firm during years of implementation. Everything starts with governance, and in this line of thought, we wish to work with our country partners on a white paper, a charter, to establish common principles. We have started work on this, and we're also working on separate MOUs with our country partners. Sustainable governance, of course, needs to engage industry stakeholders. And so our first step was to reach out to the industry. We have conducted extended consultation with stakeholders in 3 stages. First, a series of groups with stakeholders at the national, med, and local level, taking Corfu as a case study. And then we discussed the results of this consultation in 3 workshops on environmental, social, and economic sustainability during the 66th meeting of the UNWTO Regional Commission for Europe. We invited participants from local authorities, academia, and the industry to discuss these issues. And we also held a roundtable with Greek industry stakeholders, which provided an opportunity for a fruitful discussion on the opportunities and challenges that have arisen for sustainable tourism because of the pandemic. All reports are available on our website, on the Ministry's website. And the important findings that concern us here are that stakeholders acknowledged the need for data, they acknowledge the added value of the research center, and that the fact that it could act as a hub of cooperation and exchange of good practices and know-how. We are also working on methodology. We are in the process of elaborating an MOU with the University of the Aegean to develop the methodological standard. And this cooperation, of course, can be extended to include a consortium of academic partners. In fact, our med partners, other med countries, are invited partners. And our work with the University of the Aegean and academia will be to conduct pilot studies in different types of med, coastal, and insular destinations, and to fine-tune the methodological standard. And we will be happy to keep in track and to inform you on the progress of our research and our project. And we will be happy, of course, to cooperate. Thank you.
Thank you, Konstantina. Okay. Thank you to all our panelists to introduce your work on measurements. Many things has been done and also explained by you. You have talked about what is working well. You have talked about different challenges about data production and monitoring, and even you have highlighted the need of having this kind of long-lasting tools to monitor and continue producing data. But now all of you have already introduced briefly our next issue, which is how we use these indicators. So my first question for you to introduce the discussion among you is what are the main challenges? We have talked about challenges for data production, but now we are going to turn into challenges for using these sustainable tourism indicators. So what are the main challenges when it comes to use sustainable tourism indicators to inform policies?
May I start?
Sure.
The thing is, the same number or the same result must be shared different depending on who you are talking to. So for me, it's really important to know who is your aim and have an interlocutor in the other part that really knows or at least is interested in what you are speaking to and which are the results you are giving. Because you can give the same number in a different way that be more suitable. And if you may present really nicely and flashy and super cool, but at the end, it's not what they were expecting, or is not how they are going to use it. So I think there's a challenge here to communicate between those that are creating the data and researchers, and as well sometimes that are willing to use. So although it's for sure all of us know, and we are willing to work together, I think it's what we really need, and it's what will help us to share better.
May I add something to this?
Sure.
Thank you. You're totally right, and there's something else that we should keep in mind, that we need to measure in a way that produces place-based policies, and this means two things actually. Both that part of the indicators should be place-specific. This we should work on. It's a gap now, and that results should be carefully interpreted to reflect the particularities of the specific ecosystem. That they should, what you said, that they should mean something to them, so that they will be able to implement. And the first, I think, and the major challenge is that we need consensus around the need to measure and to accept results, which means working with stakeholders from other government bodies, from the tourism industry, from other economic sectors, for example, like energy and transport, meaning horizontal coordination. But we also need to work with stakeholders across spatial levels, vertical coordination, and most important, regarding social sustainability and sustainable governance, involving the local community, both from the early stages, both in planning and implementation. That's why we wish to start our pilot studies with consultation. Before measuring, we will involve the community to decide on how to measure, and then we will move on. Thank you.
Thank you.
I also to add something about we have to make a difference between research, in-depth knowledge about phenomena, processes on our territories and so on, and monitoring. Because we need a lot of monitoring at the moment for policies development and for policies evaluation. That is very important as well, especially if we are speaking about climate change, sustainability, and all things that requires frequent data that could be frequently up to date. I keep the point of Dario that said it is difficult to have up-to-date data also for the most easy and no indicators like the ETIS indicators. Very few destinations use really actually them. Why? Because it's not so easy at the end for destinations find the data they need. So we have a lot of data, maybe very good data also in some very in-depth data for some aspect, but we lack probably at the moment of standard data that could be used for medium long-term monitoring. That is very important also in the direction of SDGs and of the goals of climate and so on. So I think this is an important point, to find an easy way, indicators that could be actually used. That is an important point by me.
Dario?
If I may, yeah, the main, like in my personal opinion, the main challenge is make a policymaker don't use sustainability as a buzzword, but really as a way to for a strategy, as a vision, because like I can tell you some examples that we did. So we did this in the we want to display to show to other. So like we use sustainability, of course, as an entry point to go to the government build. We're really into that, and they fail in they actually did. And the first question was like, why my region is not first, or one of the first, or and was okay. Indicator new
Sorry, Dario.
clean.
Dario, we have problems to listen to you.
Do you hear me?
Now, yes.
Now, yes.
Let's see.
So just to recap a little bit, the two examples that I wanted to
Sure.
share with you. We went to some regions in Italy to show this list of indicators, and they were like happy in the first way. Then they didn't accept the results of the indicators. So they asked me why we are not first, or why first positions. And another example was regions were very bad into some indicators, so a group of indicators that they asked me, may we hide this indicator,
Yeah.
not show to others.
So,
So the problem is like accept the results, but also don't use the sustainability as a buzzword.
Yeah. Exactly.
yes.
Yeah. Thank you. You have provided really interesting insights. As a summary, I think the key aspects that you have already mentioned will be communication, reaching to the interlocutors, but also providing meaning to sustainability. And you have highlighted specifically to be able to select the meaningful indicators, but less indicators, fewer indicators that we are to use and to inform, but also adapted to local realities. But it comes to my mind then another challenge, which will be how you balance the locality of the indicators, but also the need to compare your destinations with other destinations, because obviously this is an issue. And also about monitoring, you have talked about the need of having update data to identify tendencies for better informed policies. So maybe these will be the main challenges that you have already highlighted. And according to that, now I want to ask you about the specific actions or strategies that you think we have to do in order to overcome these challenges to improve the use of indicators in decision making. So Giuliano, if you want to start.
Yes, I can start, and I go back to the presentation because I think the most important point in this moment is to develop standards, probably. We need the role and the action of the European institution. I think to Eurostat and all the system of Eurostat, for example, that we know is working on trying to develop different ways to measure tourism and also sustainability. They had the projects on big data and so on, so we are waiting for some also input from the top, so some method that could be shared all around Europe. But I think we also need work together with stakeholders, with observatories, with the private sector, at local level as well, to understand the needs and also to understand the tools we need. So probably between the tools, we try now with the project to define some possible tools. Having, for example, good information about the most up-to-date approaches to data use for planning tourism could be great. In our intermed project, we had a lot of very good experiences. I think to Eric data, for example, the use of cams for the very crowded places with many tourists like Florence or Dubrovnik and so on. This is a very good tool. So we have to share more the use, the actual use of these tools in as many destinations as possible, because I have the suspect that probably many destinations don't know very much about the best practices around Europe. So we have to work with the academy, with other tools to also develop capacity building, I think.
Yeah. Alba, you want to add something?
Sure. I do think this is really important, as you may said, but I think as well it's sometimes we are stuck here, and sometimes we have to accept that there will be some issues in our data and some issues in our KPIs, but we need to work anyway to give answers to the policymakers. So there is as well, it's not the challenge, maybe it's a challenge, a solution, as you may say, but the idea of now we have a lot of frameworks, a lot of approaches, a lot of ideas, but we have to take some actions at the end. So the idea is to link those KPIs with these policies, and you can, and this is really what will be, I mean, if there's by any chance, I'm launching this project, try to cooperate and have those KPIs that you have already calculated and say, okay, you will implement or you will affect those, or maybe you will not do on those others. So at the end, it will merge much easier than trying to maybe say, okay, we have to follow this. I mean, it's difficult for sure.
Yes.
So, Costantino or Dario, you want to add something?
Okay, may I? What you all said is true. We feel consultation is important, and we also feel that it is important to involve key stakeholders, key industry stakeholders. So, for example, because we will be measuring maritime and coastal tourism, we have approached CLIA, who is interested in funding part of the research, and we feel that this would be a powerful network involving CLIA, the UNWTO, and med countries. Furthermore, at the national level here in Greece, we will try to work closely with the DMOs at destination level and empower tourism destinations to establish tourism. We're working on our national trajectory, and we have created a set of indicators monitoring sustainable tourism at the national level, and we are currently working on a set of indicators to be used by regional observatories. And we hope that our project will be funded by the RRF. And we believe that working closely with the DMOs will help us achieve concrete results.
Thank you. Dario?
No, I agree with the others, especially to Alba. Working with policymakers is a little bit different from the activities that we usually are doing with European projects. The roadmap of the European project usually is like collecting data, measuring, and have indicators. Then from these indicators, create some actions, and then some actions could be strategy, or could turn into policy and strategy. Working with policymakers like this, roadmap should be changed and put it as a first point, a strategy. So what we want to reach, and then with action, and then the measuring activities. So try to see if those actions were good or not, and which was the starting point and the ending point of these actions using the indicators. So putting the vision and the strategy first behind the indicator system.
Thank you. So, yeah, according to your inputs, I would say that the main actions that we have to lead is to create standards. You have talked about EU standards, but also about this balance that we have to find between these standards, international standards, but also the needs of the destination. So it's important to understand the aims of the destinations, as well as to engage stakeholders in defining key indicators. So, yeah, DMOs, Constantina talked about DMOs, understanding their needs and for managing. So it's important also to consider what they need and then provide data for their needs. And also capacity building. You talk about the need to understand how to use those tools that we are creating in our observatories and in our projects to better understand the useful of this data. Yeah, so finally, last question, and then we go with the audience questions. It will be a more overall question, maybe it's not so specific, more it's also more general. How can sustainability tourism measurement contribute to transform governance in our destination? So now we are going to talk about governance in general and how we can help with data. So who wants to start? Constantina, maybe you want to start?
Yes, okay, thank you. Well, we believe that monitoring will provide the data to inform local stakeholders, and I mean local businessmen, the community, local government bodies. And this will we provide much needed information so that they will understand the situation and they will be able to participate in the decision making. However, the true challenge I feel is not doesn't lie in data, but it is to establish a truly inclusive and sustainable model of governance. And, for example, how to avoid the predominance of local elites. That is the risk that the same voices will be included and heard over and over in decision making. And how could we work away from the short-term life cycle of the political field and make lasting commitments? We feel that these are issues that we need to deal with. And another idea is that measuring and monitoring will help us identify where tourism expenditure is diffused, whether there is a loss of income for local stakeholders, and this will help them plan policies to embed tourism expenditure within the local economy, to create synergies between tourism and other local economic activities, and to link new and more local agents to the tourism value chain. And this means to involve them also in governance. Thank you.
Thank you. I think, Juliana, you want to add something
Yeah.
to what's about?
I think we have to think to data as tools, sometimes powerful tools to give inputs to our policies, to monitor our policies. I told about this before. And this last point, I can't remember who said that is probably not every time liked by our policymakers and decision makers, because sometimes the policies doesn't work. So having good data for that can be problematic for politicians. So this is a point also to be part of the reflections. And also we can use data for promotion of our destination. But here, I think there is a last point, because we need clear goals for our destination. What are our goals? Is to be more sustainable, is to be more attentive to the protection of biodiversity of resources, or our real goals are to maximize presences in our destinations. This should be clear, because it is very different, the approach also in the use of data that we can find in the reality if these goals are not so clear, I think. So this is a point.
Thank you. So, Dario?
I agree. My personal opinion, governance and the activities connected to governance, so the relationship with different stakeholders and the actions should be supported by those data and those measures. I know that it's sometimes difficult because, of course, we saw the challenges before, but everyone is now using a data-driven approach to plan a strategy and to governance better their activities, their territory. So also during destination and strategic plan should be a little bit data-driven in terms of sustainability, in terms of indicators connected to sustainability, because this is the only way that we have.
Thank you.
Yeah, at the end, what they say is that governance and sustainability right now are merging together, and it will be difficult to distinguish. So data is used to take decision making. So if it's sustainable, so is the sustainable data decision making at the end. So it's key point to do any strategy to, even before or after, as we have said, could be to planning and to check the results if they are working or not. And for sure, we have to accept those as one of the challenges. So it's really important to take into account the data, for sure needs to be integrated in this governance. But I do think they are using it. So the idea is how we label them.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you have provided really interesting insights. I will take some of them. You have talked about, yeah, data is not always aligned with political aims, and this is an issue for sure, no? But it has to be this shift of culture. We have to also work on introducing, as you said, Alba, sustainability merged into governance, and not talk about sustainability in governance, but it's embedded in governance itself. And also the importance of monitoring policies. We are launching some policies about sustainability tourism, but sometimes we are not collecting evidence about their usefulness or their results and so on. So that's also a challenge in that way. And also, it was also interesting that Constantina said about sustainability indicators could be a way to empower stakeholders in decision making. That's also a really interesting insight about that. And again, you talk about the use of sustainability data for promotion, which is quite new, but it is already being applied in different strategies in destinations. So that's also interesting. Obviously, it has to be aligned with sustainability aims in destinations. So sure, interesting. And now I think we have 2 questions here. I don't know if in the virtual mode you can read the questions. You say that? You saw that? No. You don't see the question, right? Okay, we have a question about how to implement sustainability tourism schemes for a real change in policy making. This is something that we have already been discussing. I don't know if you want to add something about that. It's something that we have already answered, I guess. And then next question is about Interreg funded several projects. The European Commission created the ETIs. Interreg funded several projects about indicators that deliver methodology and assessment tools, and we are still wondering how to measure tourism sustainability. What else do we need? That's right.
This is not a
Tricky
an easy
question.
question, yes, but I think we need actions, as said before. So we need to implement in the practice the tools we have, the ETIS indicators and other. And we have to try in the real destinations to use actually the data for planning, for measuring sustainability and so on. But this is it seems to be an easy point, but it is not, because as I said, I know quite few experiences of real use of ETIs, for example. So we have to also to ask why these indicators doesn't work, or maybe they do work, but we don't use it. Why we don't use it? So this is a point of the discussion and the next work.
Sure.
Yes. May I agree with you. I think a challenge will be to lower the spatial scale and to implement at the destination level. This is lagging.
Yeah, in fact, ETIs did a lot of job about sustainable tourism indicators, but now it's all destinations has embedded these indicators mainly in their strategies, and they have adapted. So we don't have ETIs anymore as ETIs, but we have it in other strategies or actions. Yeah. Yeah. You want to add
May
something?
I?
Yeah.
Yes. Just a small thing that, for example, at the coastal scale is also lacking. We need to define what it is and measure it, and use the appropriate indicators so that we can have a really accurate picture. We can't talk about tourism in general. Tourism is about tourism destinations, and that's why we need to lower the spatial scale.
Yeah. Thank you. Anyone? No, because we run out of time. So yeah, thank you very much for your presentations and for your insights. Also, thanks to the audience for attending this session. And now, I think if I'm not wrong, we have a well-deserved 30-minute break.
We do. Yes, we do.
Thank
so
you.
Now we're going to lead into the yes, big round of applause.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.